I started getting nervous in my head, thinking, am I really am I telling them the right things?
Right.
So I want to be better about that.
Well, and it's just practice.
Yeah.
That's all that it is. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I think when you're a seasoned teacher, you can think on the fly and things just pop out. And then as you start doing one block and then the next block, you'll just get better throughout the day. And then the next day it'll be like, oh, I'm going to tell that story again. I'm not going to tell that story.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it'll get better.
Yeah.
No worries. So let's look at the Student Development Standard 1.
Okay.
And again, this is just your first one. And I think this is going to grow as you go throughout. And so for the first one, let's see. So this is how does the candidate use knowledge about students' growth and development to design and implement developmentally appropriate and challenging learning experiences. And this first, the understanding learning. I'm right about here in the proficient, I believe. You understand how students construct knowledge, acquire skills, and develop disciplined thinking, processes, and uses this knowledge to develop instructional strategies that promote student learning. I think you're there. It's for the understanding of learning. I think this is about where you're at right there. Would you agree, or what are your thoughts on that?
I agree, and it helped me, and I wish I could have recorded it that day, but it's helped me to work with all range of students,
Right.
like the co-teach,
Right.
and I had the
Yes,
small group with the sped students.
And you did
that day.
great when you did that small group.
I enjoyed that so much.
Yeah.
I wish I could have recorded that.
Yeah.
I felt like I was myself and
Right.
just.
Well, and we're
coming
going to
into
do
my
that, like and this week with the illuminated letter with the art teacher coming in,
Yeah, I'm excited
So
about
next
that.
week we're going to do, small groups again like that, with,
Okay.
especially with the co-teach. And you can record on,
Yeah,
on one
that'll
of
be
those
great.
for sure.
Yeah.
Meeting students' needs. Now I put it on here for basic and developing, and I looked at the word developing more than basic. Your instructional strategies are meeting the social, emotional, and physical needs. Yes, absolutely, but are not effective in meeting the cognitive and linguistic needs. And this is the cognitive is where I was at, as far as they're not listening, they're not
Right.
participating, and that's basically mostly from yesterday's. But when you're on as a whole group, but when you're one-on-one with them, you're meeting those needs. So that's why it's like,
Right.
but we kind of have to look at a whole group as
Sure.
well. So that's why I chose the developing, and I don't like the word basic, but I like
Right.
developing.
Well, and I do feel like I have a hard time getting command of the entire
Right,
class.
right.
Our 7th graders are so vocal and silly sometimes,
Right.
and you have a very authoritative voice with it, and that's where I
Right,
want to be.
Right. Definitely use the front row speaker every
Yes.
time.
Okay.
I would strongly recommend that.
I
you know.
will. I mean, if you don't think it's too much, I'd love to use
No,
it.
you need to use it every time, I think.
Okay.
I mean, because they need to see that you're in control. Because as soon as they see that you're not, even with attendance in the morning, come in, sit down. It's let's go. I mean,
Right.
every class, come in, sit down. And they need to hear you say that when they come in.
Good, okay.
So I think every period you need to make sure they're seeing you when they come in, have a seat, get your literacy folder out, your composition notebook, and you're giving that command every time.
And I think it has helped that I have been taking attendance for a lot of the classes, and you've been in somewhere talking to another teacher, and I've been the one in the room, and that has helped where they take me a little more seriously.
Yes, yeah. But controlling the sound
Right.
is also, I mean, because if they're talking while you're doing all that,
Yeah.
it's hard to get them back sometimes.
Right.
So it's kind of like you're the bad guy in the beginning, and once they know you're serious, then you can ease up on it.
Okay, that's what I need to hear,
there's that.
because I don't want to be the bad guy,
Yes.
but yet they don't pay attention if you don't.
There's that story, the teacher from the Black Lagoon. You need to look
No.
that up, okay?
Okay,
And there's
I gotta read
there's a little story, and she comes in, and she's like all, she's a substitute, and she's just wearing all black, and she's mean, and it's just, and then the real teacher comes back, and they're like, well, I can leave again if you want the other teacher back, or you can stick with me. And so that's kind of a, and I even wrote a book. We did like in college we had to create our own little book, and I based it off of that as well.
That's great. I've got
so
to find that.
you need to find that, because
Yeah.
it's a good story. All right, so would you agree with that?
I would
on that one?
agree.
Okay.
And actually, for a while, a few of the kids were calling me a sub for a while.
Right.
And I mean, I just said to them, I'm not a substitute.
Right.
I'm going to be with you all semester. I'm Mrs. Patterson. You know, and after that, it was always Mrs. Patterson, and you know, they didn't bring up substitute again.
Right. And they've been calling your name. Yesterday, I noticed that, raising their hand, Miss Patterson, come over here. You know, so which is good because I mean, sometimes they don't get a connection and they just ignore an intern altogether.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah. Readiness for learning. So I'm torn between two here. Okay, the developing and the proficient. So let's look at them both. Candidate recognizes students' readiness for learning, but is unsure of how to help individual students move to a higher level. And this is the key here, to a higher level, before other students in the class are ready to do so. The proficient, okay, an individual group of students is ready to move to the next level, develops appropriate instructional strategies, which I would say yes, especially when you were doing that co-teach small group, to help those students move to a higher level of learning while continuing to help students who have not yet reached that level of readiness. So that's why I'm torn, because I've only seen it once, and I think that's with the co-teach, but you haven't had real opportunities to do it any other time. So
I try to build on that in Tools for Learning, only because some of that is my background. So I try to use my background knowledge to further them along when they're doing the career projects.
That's true. Okay, so let's go ahead.
But that's, you know, not language arts.
And that's where my heart is. And so it's hard for me to. Sorry, we got to move just for a second. There we go.
Okay.
And that's where it's hard for me, because I don't, my focus, I guess, is on the language arts. And not the Tools for Learning. Because I know the language arts is the most critical.
And I want to learn that, more of that. The other comes easier to me.
Right, it's natural. And I appreciate you so much in that Tools for Learning, because it's giving them an opportunity to see what the real world is like, you know. So let's say proficient on there for sure then, because I forget about Tools for Learning.
I still want to work on that.
Yeah, and this is going to be, I mean, and this is still hard for us, you know, I mean, as far as when do we move on? When is it okay? How do we split them up into different groups or give additional assignments? Especially since we've already kind of, you know, we've got the pre-AP, we have co-teach, and we have grade level. So they're, you know, but there's some that just don't fit in those categories, and so we've got to make adjustments for those kids. Developmentally appropriate instruction. Candidate understands developmentally appropriate instruction, but does not consistently apply that knowledge in his or her teaching. Or candidate uses instructional strategies that are developmentally appropriate for students based on their strengths, interests, and needs.
I'm not sure that I am there yet. Just, you know, I need a few more weeks to get there.
And I agree. I think it's just the practice. I think that's why the developing that we're developing is key. And I mean, it's just something that is gonna,
which I totally
it's gonna happen over time, you know. But I mean, and I think you understand, but it's using it. You just haven't had the opportunity. So that's the only thing.
I'm
on
a
that
big
one.
observer, though. I keep watching you.
And you cracked me up when you said, I wrote down the things that you said. Collaboration with families and others, and again, this is. You know, this is hard because Lakeside doesn't allow opportunities for you to do this, especially 3 weeks into your internship. You are going to have the opportunity to come to parent-teacher conferences in October, and so we'll definitely come back and reevaluate this one. But at this time, it's not applicable other than the letter that you're sending home. But you don't have permission to contact parents, email parents, phone